is Rey Mysterio planning on returning to the WWE? Rey Mysterio, about a year ago, left the WWE, and now he's thinking about coming back. What happened was that he was planning on coming he was planning on joining Lucha Underground. Now, if you don't know what Lucha Underground is, it was on the El Rey Network. Right now, they're off the air. They're possibly going to do a season 2, maybe not. And that's really what this is all about. Rey Mysterio wanted to go to Lucha Underground, but for some reason, I guess, by the time his contract ended, I think they were done taping. I think they finished taping the show like in April, and the last episode aired in August. So I don't know exactly when he was free of his contract. I think it was a very long, he had to wait a very long time before the contract, the no compete clause ended. But for some reason, he was not in the first season. I don't know why of Lucha Underground. He wasn't in the first season of it. And now, we don't even know if there's going to be a second season of Lucha Underground. It's totally up in the air. And Rey Mysterio is thinking about going back to WWE. Now, recently, Rey Mysterio did sign some type of deal with Paramount in Mexico, where he was going to be some type of ambassador for Paramount Pictures, and he's going to promote Paramount movies or something like that in Mexico or something like that. It's kind of a weird job. I don't really understand it, but I don't know how much that pays. He obviously still wrestles in Mexico. He wrestled Sin Cara, who's now known as Mystices, in Mexico recently at the big Triple Mania show, which was a complete disaster. That horrible audio problems. It aired on American. I guess it aired on American pay-per-view in Canada, and that was a huge disaster. So that I think it's just Rey Mysterio. I think he's back in ring shape, and he doesn't seem to have any knee issues right now. I think he's 40. But at any time, Rey Mysterio could get injured again. He's very injury prone. Let's be honest here. Rey Mysterio is very injury prone. He has horrible knees. I don't know if he's going to have that longevity that you need to be in WWE. You know, if he's a part-time guy in WWE, I guess that's fine. But WWE, I don't think Rey Mysterio is a big enough star to be a part-time guy. I guess he could just wrestle on Raws and SmackDowns, or just wrestle on Raw and pay-per-views or something like that. But I just don't think. I think WWE would want to use him at least in Mexico. He'd have to do all the house shows in Mexico. They'd have to do all the Southern California house shows, all the live events. So, you know, I just don't know if WWE wants to hire a guy who's only going to work a limited schedule. You know, and Rey Mysterio, and plus the whole thing about him leaving WWE was just so he left WWE on very weird terms. He wanted out for years. He's wanted out. He's wanted out of his contract, and they finally gave him his release. And one of the reasons why WWE waited so long is because they did not want him to go to Lucha Underground. That was one of the reasons. I guess they thought that if he went there, it would be successful. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe people would have cared more about Lucha Underground. I saw Lucha Underground. I thought it was a great show. The biggest issue with it, I think, is just that it's on a small time network. You know, El Rey Network. You know, nothing against them, but it's a very small time network, and it's just not worth putting in all that work that those guys put in. I mean, those guys nearly killed themselves every single week, jumping off, you know, the jumping from the rafters, and just. It was crazy. It was insane. And it harkened back in some ways to the old ECW to a degree, in some ways. Just craziness. The storylines were great. You know, it kept you interested. I thought it was a great show, and I think it could be the wave of the future. Maybe WWE one day will do something like that in the future. But back to this whole Rey Mysterio thing, I believe that Rey Mysterio will never go back to WWE. I don't think WWE's ever going to hire him again. I mean, I just think Rey Mysterio has wishful thinking that he thinks WWE is going to hire him again. I think the bridges have been burned. I think there's no chance that Rey Mysterio will ever go back to WWE. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he should just stay wrestling in Mexico. He can do ROH, New Japan, Lucha Underground if it comes back, or GFW, something like that. I just don't think that it just wouldn't be good too for just like I said before, it would not be good for his knees, for his body. It just is not. It's not a good idea. If he was going to wrestle like at Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, the occasional Raw, that'd be fine. But I don't think it's going to happen. Rey Mysterio, he's a big star, especially in Mexico. He's a gigantic star, but he's just not as big of a star in the United States. He's a big star, but he's not as a big star in the United States. In Mexico, he's big time, but in the U.S., he's more on, I would say, on the level of like I'm trying to compare him to someone. It's hard to compare. He's a person that's very difficult to compare to. He's, a couple, maybe a notch below like Eddie Guerrero. I would say in fame. Because Eddie Guerrero passed away, he's a little more famous because he's a little more famous because of that. But he's a couple notches below Eddie Guerrero, I would say. But he's kind of on that similar level to a degree. But my final words on this, I don't think it's going to happen, but we'll see. I think that Rey Mysterio should just stay doing what he's doing and just, keep working a limited schedule because it'll be better on his body. He'll have a much, more sanity, not having to deal with the politics of WWE because it's crazy. It's crazy over there at WWE, and I think he should just stay what he's doing.